let's talk about addiction. Happy New Year, friends. If you haven't already, you can watch the previous video to hear my New Year message for you. Why start off the year by talking about addiction? It's a dark topic. Why start the new year on such a dark, gloomy note? Well, I'll try to explain why. First of all, there are a couple of reasons. Let's say that the first reason is that during 2023, I think I received on average one message per day, at least on average one message per day, about people reaching out, asking for help or any sort of advice on struggling with addiction, on overcoming addiction. People who consider themselves addicted to a specific substance or a certain type of self-destructive behavior. So it is out of a sense of responsibility and duty towards those people who are giving me their time and attention, that I have decided slowly during 2023 to focus more and more about educating myself on addiction. But as fate would have it, my inner world started revealing itself to me. Besides feeling duty and responsibility to respond to specific needs, specific questions of those who are reading my work and now watching my work, I have also realized that in my mental health struggles, by far the most helpful insights and the most relatable experiences, the most relatable struggles came from recovering addicts. My mental health struggles were not a result of an addiction, but the inner struggles that I heard recovering addicts talk about resonated with me deeply. And as I go with you on this journey of exploring addiction and fighting against it, I'm sure that you will see that recovering addicts are some of the wisest people we have in our society, in our world, and that they are some of the most relatable human beings. So besides pure sense of duty and responsibility to respond to my audience, it's also this understanding, inner revelation that is something that I'm supposed to be doing anyway, even if only one person was asking me to help them with addiction. It was already something that I had to talk about, because my inner experiences could be translated in some way that could be helpful to those who are struggling with addiction. Third reason is that besides the online world and people that I'm interacting with through my work, besides looking back on my mental health struggles and understanding how insightful experiences of recovering addicts are, it's also that I witnessed firsthand. I cannot say from really close people in my life, but during 2023 I witnessed firsthand what addiction looks like. I've seen it before, but at those times I was not mature enough, or let's say that my mind and my soul were not developed enough to understand what this addiction that I'm looking in front of me means. I've just seen it as a failure of discipline, to be completely honest, as a failure of discipline, failure of self-control. I didn't view it as anything more than that. So I was not able to really gain anything. Maybe I'm not supposed to gain anything from other people's addiction. I don't want to sound selfish, but I was not able to neither help to gain some insights from it that could help other people. So it was during this year now already previous year, 2023, that I witnessed addiction once again, couple of times. and it moved me so deeply. I don't want to sound like I had a mystical experience, but witnessing addiction close up after a long time and at this stage of my life, it awakened something in me. It awakened a sense of once again duty and responsibility, but on a such a high level, not just for the sake of responding to what people are asking of me, even though that's as great of a duty and responsibility as it can be. But I felt that if I don't try to do my small part in fighting this crisis that we are experiencing worldwide, if I don't do my small part, I'm going to be betraying who I'm supposed to be. I'm going to betraying uh, the gift of life that I have received. I'm going to be betraying everything that I have been given, all the support that I have been given, and the position that I have been given to influence people in some way. So, sorry for maybe too long of an introduction, but I felt it was important to say why I want to be talking about addiction. And even this introduction doesn't do enough justice to explain how important addiction is every to talk about addiction, how important it is for every single human being who is uh, curious about life, who is sometimes confused by life, every single human being who wants to live a life that is not completely detached from questioning what it means to be human. Because this is going to sound outrageous, but in a sense, addiction is almost a default human state. Addiction not necessarily to a substance, but addiction to self-destructive thought or behavior patterns. It's almost a default state of human existence. And if you draw a parallel between addiction and, on one hand, sin, uh, which is present in religious, monotheistic religions, or you draw a parallel between anxiety and between addiction and sin, and between addiction and existential anxiety, angst. Both sin and angst are ever present here in the human condition, in the human existence, and different religions and different ways of thinking provide different solutions to dealing with this. But it's not something that is unnatural and happens just to those of us that are somehow messed up. Quite the contrary, it's a default state. So addiction, when you start breaking it down, a parallel can be drawn between addiction and sin, addiction and anxiety, addiction and angst. That's why I was explaining how relatable recovering addicts are when you have read some philosophy, especially existentialists, when you have read religion, religious texts, when you have read neuroscience, when you have read psychoanalytics like Jung, and I always recommend James Hollis, who is still alive, who is doing a incredible job of making Jungian psychology accessible to general population. If you read those schools of thought or those systems of belief and thought, you start understanding why, even if you're not addicted, when you listen to recovering addicts, there's so many things in common that you can find with them. As you can see, this is not a video about providing you with 1-step, 5-step, or 15-step solution to overcoming addiction. It's a beginning of a journey that I want to invite you on. A lot of my attention and energy are going to be invested in further educating myself on addiction from different perspectives, from scientific psychological, philosophical, and even religious perspective. I want to say that I will be investing tremendous amount of attention and energy to this issue. So I want to invite you on this journey with me because this is a topic that I will be discussing, and I believe that we should all be tackling this issue together. Because even if you are not addicted, you know someone who is. But I still challenge you to rethink what addiction is. For this first video in a hopefully long series on addiction, let's challenge one notion. Let's challenge the notion of recovering from addiction. What I'm about to share is once again an idea that comes from many different perspectives, both scientific and psychological, philosophical, religious. We are not recovering from addiction. We are growing out of it. Recovering from addiction is usually seen as going back to normal, going back to who you used to be, going back to what other people are, going back, positive going back. That's what we see. That's what recovering from addiction means for most people. What if we cannot recover from addiction? We can only grow out of it. We can only overcome addiction by forward movement. We see pretty much the same thing being said by scientists who've been working with addicted people, as well as religious and philosophical thinkers. You have to grow out of your addiction. You have to grow and develop as an individual. And that's the only way that we see real recovery. And now consider something more after this. If you are in a state of retreat, if you are in a state of escaping from the pain inside, if you are in a state of not wanting to face all the things that are causing you to feel uncomfortable and then reach for that numbing activity, then how can you ever grow and develop? How can there ever be growth that will lead to growing out of addiction? If you're not willing to face the pain inside, how can you move forward? Also, if you're not engaging with the world, how can you become this new, greater, bigger individual who has grown out of their addiction? One psychiatrist that is working with addicted people, he says that a new set of values has to be adopted. A new set of values can only be adopted if you're interacting with the world. If you are trying out new experiences, hopefully meaning not trying out new addictive experiences, but engaging with the world, reading new books, trying new physical activities, meeting new healthy people, healthy-minded people, first of all. So let's acknowledge that the pain inside that you're experiencing, the confusion, the feeling of being overwhelmed with this life and this world, the feeling of anxiety, those feelings and inner states don't mean that something is wrong with you. No, it is how you deal with those states. It is how you deal with states that are inherent to human condition and how you deal with some specific things that happen to you. It is how you're dealing with them that's the problem. Let's recognize that everything you think makes you messed up actually makes you human, makes you relatable, more than you could understand. That's why one of the very first steps in our journey of combating addiction should be to recognize that we are not messed up. We are not freaks for feeling this type of way that makes us uncomfortable and confused. We are not monsters. We are humans who need to learn how to deal better with our often chaotic inner world. We are humans who are capable of growing out of our self-destructive behavior patterns and our self-destructive thought patterns. This video already got too long, so let's leave this as an introduction into our journey of battling and defeating addiction. Remember, it's not going back to being normal, to being who you used to be. It's not going back to who you were supposed to be. It's going and growing forward. Forward and upward is the way out of addiction. Subscribe, like, comment your thoughts on this. Let's discuss addiction in a healthy way. Of course, stay strong, love life, never feel sorry for yourself, and know that you are not messed up. Thank you.